Lead Young.
Hi, I'm Alan Nelson. Welcome to Coaching Young Leaders. This series is for people who work with student leaders, whether they be activities directors, student government representatives, parents, or youth workers. In our work with thousands of students around the world and hundreds of schools, I've consistently noticed 3 mistakes made in student leadership programs. So I'm starting this series by introducing them. Perhaps you can use this as a quick way to assess your leadership program. The first is not having a clear declarative definition of leadership. Now don't feel badly, because out of my 700 books on leadership, less than 5% define the term they're using. I guess we all sort of assume we know what we're talking about. But if we don't clearly define the term, we can't really create a clear goal for what the program should be and how we should develop these young leaders. Most student programs claiming to be leadership are actually about self-actualization, citizenship, team building, and character. These are all wonderful things, but they don't differentiate what leaders do from non-leaders, and they're not organizationally skill-oriented. Our definition of leadership is the process of helping people accomplish together what they would not or could not as individuals. This means that leadership is a social process and it can't be done alone. Leaders are individuals who catalyze leadership. They do this by leading, which is a verb, referring to what leaders do to activate leadership. So by clarifying what we mean, it helps us focus on leading organizationally, not just being a good person or citizen. Imagine playing a basketball game without the hoop and net. The sport would be reduced to a pointless game of keep away. So having a clear definition of leadership is a very important first task. A second big problem in student leadership programs is related to the first. It's failing to identify leadership talent. The U.S. Department of Education recognizes leadership as a domain of gifted and talented, meaning a certain group of students possess a superior aptitude for leading. Think of it like an athletic team. You don't just select students randomly from the student body. You want your best athletes to start in a game and then what coaches call get a deep bench. We'll talk more about this in the next webinar in this mini-series. And then the third problem of student leadership programs is failing to train students how to lead before unleashing them. Part of this has to do with the gap that exists between people who specialize in leading versus those who work with students. Most educators who work with youth have been trained in pedagogy and teaching. Most leadership specialists work with adults employed by organizations, not youth. Ironically, schools exist to educate and train youth before unleashing them into the work world. Yet most student leadership programs unleash their members with little to no skill training. Leadership skills can't be learned from a book, but rather through project-based training and Socratic coaching. We'll discuss this more in the third part of this mini-series. So let's review what we discuss in a way that can help you begin improving your student leadership program. First, write a clear definition of leadership. We recommend the one mentioned in this webinar, but regardless, make sure you have one that you can own. Second, create measurable goals based on this definition and make sure some of these relate to the type of student you want to recruit. Go after talent. And third, begin working on a training plan that focuses on organizational skills. Don't just tell students to plan an event or run a program. Give them the skills. Set them up to succeed. Hopefully you found this webinar helpful, even if it may be a little disconcerting. Our goal at Lead Young Training Systems is to help you succeed in developing student leaders. I'm Alan Nelson. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Coaching Young Leaders. Lead on.
Lead Young.